You know, when I do a workshop and I say I am engaging in learning and unlearning myself with you all, I want you to take it serious because, as I said, I was in the discussion, the written discussion that followed in two other groups, and so much amazing stuff was shared, so much, and I'm very, very happy when I see what's going on. So let's get into it. So we are recording. So we're going to talk another part 2 of our leadership in equity series. Leadership as in you as an educator, you as a principal, you as an administrator, leading in equity from the front. How do you take this change to make change? And we're going to talk about disrupting anti-Black racism from within. And this is quite a bit of discussion today I want to get into. On the screen there, you see Bob Marley. And I got this line from his song, I want to disturb my neighbor. And that is from the Uprising 1980 album. As a matter of fact, last week, Bob Marley would celebrate his 76th birthday, but of course, you know, he's dead and gone, but it would have been 76. And there was a big thing celebrating Bob Marley and celebrating, you know, his birthday and that kind of stuff. So quite interesting stuff. But I want you to understand how powerful this line in this song is. And it says, you know, I want to disturb my neighbor. You might wonder why. And there's a line that says, draw a bad card. That's a Jamaican dialect. The neighbor draw a bad card, which is doing the wrong thing. You're playing a game. You are not doing right. So you draw a bad card. And so many of us, and I say us because of course I identify as a Black man, and I always want, when I do a workshop or I do a talk, people to know that yes, that's how I identify as a Black man, not a colored person. You can, if you call me colored, I'm not going to be offended, but I will correct you and say to you, I am Black, right? So don't worry about that. And I want you to understand that many of us, historically, we have been dealt a bad card, right? So a lot of us, we have to understand, why is it that we talk about this disrupting? Why is it that we have disrupting? You know, bad card that says to one person, I see you, and then I see all of you, right? Because you are the right color, you have the right language, you have the right accent and geographical birthplace. And to another, you say, because that you are the wrong color, we are going to make you invisible. So these are the ways we're talking about a bad card. And I want to think about, as we disturb, we have to be brave. Let me make sure I say that at the very beginning. Disturbing anti-Black racism is brave work. It demands moral courage. It demands a transformative leader. For those of you who are in 1041, I want you to write that down. Transformative. I didn't say transformational. I said transformative. And Dr. Carolyn Shields, you could Google Dr. Carolyn Shields. She talks a lot about transformative leadership. We have to remember there are no manuals for disturbing, especially when we are within the organization. So how do we disturb an organization that we benefit from? How do we do that? How do we disturb an organization, a school that you're attending? How do you do that? And there are many ways to do that. There are many ways to do this, to do the work of disrupting. And I want you to notice that the headline again, the picture, I should say, that I used those, the business as usual. And you see that ball coming in to disturb that. And we have to remember that when we talk about disrupting, we're talking about not doing business as usual, not allowing people to be marginalized and pushed aside and ignored. The lack of representation is being disturbing many places. You all see a lot of people hiring. You know, we're in Black History Month. There are many persons who have never, schools, who principals could tell you they have done a horrible job at celebrating Black History Month. We want to disrupt that. We'll through your advocacy speech. I'm telling you, I listen to everyone, and I learned so much about streaming programs and the different programs you have in your schools, and so many ways that we have just not allowed everybody to be a part of the process. And so we want to disturb that. So we're going to look at 4 questions today. 4 questions, everybody. What are you disrupting? Who is disrupting? What needs disrupting in our schools, and what tools are you using to disrupt? The first thing we want to go ahead is think about, what are you disrupting? So what are you disrupting? That's my first question. I love this picture. I've used this picture many times. Maybe you have seen me use it before. Some of you have seen me use it before, I'm sure. And I use it because I like it. Because this is a good example of the hypocrisy we see in many of our institutions. Trying to figure out, this systematic racism happens. What's going on? I want to tell you something. I had a workshop today, and I showed a group of teachers maybe 8 or 9 examples of issues happening that happened right here in Canada, have to do with equity, social justice, diversity, inclusion, racism, anti-Black racism, right in our schools. And if you have some good examples, I would love to have them. Send me an email, a newspaper clipping. Dr. Campbell, you remember this incident happened at this place? Send me them. I want to add more to mine. Please do. Because what I find when you go to some of these workshops and you're talking about anti-Black racism or racism, people look at you. You could sense some people looking at you. You could feel it like, oh, well, this is Canada. This doesn't happen in Canada. Like I keep on saying, we like to talk about Harriet Tubman in a way as if this is what the history of slavery started in Canada, with Harriet Tubman freeing. So we have positioned Canada as freeing, helping to free the slaves and get them to escape from the US to come here. And what we refuse to talk about is slavery in Canada. I just finished doing a research on slavery in Canada, not a research paper, that's my personal research on slavery in Canada. Because we want to make sure we disrupt that narrative that is dishonest. And so we have to, I love this picture because it shows the level of pretense and checkbox that happens when we talk about racism. So I don't want us to do that. I don't want us to pretend like we are trying to figure out what happens. And I use this quite a bit. You'll see me use this also because I said it's a stage. Why are we not seeing the response and actions and we desire? Why? But most people in organization, they're engaged in a performance. It's just another check the box. I tell you something very, very important. Last year, when I got, a lot of flood of people coming in wanting me to do workshops, I have done this for years. It's not new. And I just let you know, there are many places, schools, I can name schools and organizations who have been doing anti-Black racism disrupting work years before it was popular last year. So no, there are places who are doing very intentional work. I could tell you that. And I said to people, be careful of the one Black talk. I get it. You want to jump into it. You want an authority like myself on it. You want a Black person who is in Black skin doing it. But quickly people start to realize the nuances and the fact that a 1 hour, 45 minutes, 1 hour talk will never be enough. It's a place to place yourself in an ongoing conversation. What are you saying, Dr. Campbell? A 1 hour talk like this is useless? No, it's powerful. But what happens afterwards? I know my students. For those who are listening to this video afterwards, and you're from the public space, this video is created with my students in mind. I know my students. And I know that some of you are engaging in the work and you are engaging in reflection. And let me just tell you this. I want to say to many schools who I know out there who have done this workshop with me or doing with many other people, they have coming back to me to tell me the winning statement. And the winning statement is, this has caused us to really think about. This has caused us to do. This has caused us to read. This has caused us to engage. This has caused us to do this. And that is a power. So no, I am not critical or criticizing a 1-hour workshop, a 30 minutes chat. Absolutely not. But I'm saying when you are done with this, what do you do afterwards? When you are done with this lecture, is it a good chat with your friend afterwards and you are done? You are covered anti-Black racism, or is it an ongoing? Is it an ongoing process? So it is an ongoing process. I asked a number of persons in my workshop the other day, I said, where are you on your journey? And what I want to do is to honor, I want you to listen to me carefully. I want to honor the fact that all of us in this room, we are on different parts of our journey. And I really, really want to say that to everybody who is doing the work of social, I'm looking at the camera for this one, social justice, equity, diversity, inclusion, anti-Black racism, anti-homophobia, anti-Islamophobia, LGBTQ rights, whoever, wherever you are doing this work, we are all on a journey, and I am excited and happy you are on the journey. I was moderating the Nelson Publishing talk last week. Many of you I know came there and you saw really powerful set of panelists. And one of our panelists, George Macaulay, one of the panelists, he said, he talked about the journey, and then he said, where is your on-ramp? I've been quoting him, giving him the credit every minute. I've been repeating it. Where is your on-ramp? At what point do you get in the conversation? Your on-ramp. You get on the highway. You come off the side road and you're on the highway. Where is your on-ramp? There's some of you in this room, I know you. The day you walk through Oisey, you are already on your on-ramp. I can tell you, there are students in this class and in other classes that I respect and I love and I admire, because I know you're going to be a voice to reckon with in our schools, and we need voices. We need voices. Where is your on-ramp? And that leads me to my second question. Who is disrupting? Who are you? Who are you? So you're on your on-ramp, you jump in the game. Who are you doing the disrupting? And I will never get tired of this slide. Never. Because way too many of us who are into the work or are interested in the work of disrupting our anti-Black racism or our equity or social justice, we have not taken the time out to figure who we are, you know. We have not taken the time out to figure who we are. More and more, during this anti-Black racism conversation, Black people among ourselves are realizing not everybody in Black skin walk in their Blackness. Hello? We talk about persons who are racialized, and we talk about proximity to whiteness and how we have been complicit because we benefit from proximity to whiteness. And so who are you? I've said this before, there are people who are doing anti-racist work only because it's a salary scale, only because it's a new title. It was up for promotion, it was up for a title, and you grab it. But you are not invested in the work. And so you wonder why the work is so pretentious, why the work is not growing, why the work has no body, no face, no energy, no fire, no grit, no bravery. These conversations are not the cutest conversation, and they are not made to be cute. And if you notice, I am not the person who would provide disclaimer. You know, it's a lot. We used to provide disclaimer. You know, you're going to be uncomfortable during this conversation a little bit, and we want you to sit in the discomfort. I usually say that. I've said it in the past, but I'm stopped saying that. I stopped saying that because I'm not giving anybody any form of excuse to disengage. Because why would you disengage for a conversation that you are privileged to sit in for 1 hour when people live in this for 20 and 30 years? As a teacher, you're uncomfortable talking about certain topic, but the students in your class, they are living it. So I don't do that. And I'm saying to teachers who are listening to me right now present, and those who will look at this video later on, that I am telling you, Get beside yourself. Get out of yourself. Get out of yourself. That's selfish of you because you're so uncomfortable with the conversation. But children in your classrooms are affected and dying because of this conversation. But you are okay. It's a privilege to be uncomfortable for 2 hours. It's a privilege to be uncomfortable. I want you to be conscious of your bias and your prejudice. We all have biases. Every one of us in this room, we all have biases, including Andrew Campbell. The trick is, or the truth is, many of us, we have worked on them. We have pulled them in front of us. We have become conscious of them, and we realize this is damaging. We need to repair this. We need to do away with this stereotype, this assumption, this idea. And that's how you work on your unconscious bias. You know, when we use the word power and privilege, people like to run away. When I teach when I just started teaching in OISD, I never forget, you could feel it in the room when you talk about white privilege. You could feel the level of discomfort in the room. And I said to my students, I want none of you to deny your privilege. That is not my intention, for you to come to school and lie and deny your privilege. What my intention is, one line, write it down for me. One thing I want you to do, and write this down in your notepad. How will I use my power and my privilege to create access and opportunities for all my students? How will I use my power and my privilege to create access and opportunities for all my students? That is it. And I could sit here right now and I could give you stories upon, you know, I'm a storyteller, stories upon stories about people who I know, white people, privileged white people, who have used their power to create access and opportunity. And you know, I'm sure you know persons yourself. So nobody's here to deny that. We are here to say, use it. And many of us need to use it way more because the rate is low. Allyship is low. Allyship is low. So I want you to think about that as you think about self. Who are you doing this work? The next question I want us to get into is, what needs disrupting in our schools? We're going to spend a little time here today. What needs disrupting in our schools? Let us go to the chat box, everyone. This is a participation time. I'm going to ask you to go to the chat. I'm going to start. You don't have to turn your cameras on if you don't wish to, because we are recording. You don't have to turn your cameras on. Let's go to the chat quickly and type for me in the chat, everybody. Type for me. What needs disrupted in your school? Let's get some of that. School morale. Thank you, Samantha. The curriculum. Go ahead, everybody. Continue. School morale. The curriculum. What needs disrupting? The expectation, the hiring process, especially in private schools, the deficit thinking regarding students' ability, leadership, come on now, need disrupting. I love this one, Rob, the mindset of educators, representation or the lack, accessibility, accountability. Come on now, give me some more. Teacher requiring students to be submissive and obedient. Leah, thank you, powerful. Powerful. Conversations need disrupting, Molly. Staff room conversation needs some disrupting. I could tell you that. Lack of introspection. Curriculum prioritized over student well-being. You know, Kathleen, I'm gonna freeze for a minute, pause for a minute and say this to you. Years ago, when I started, I did a workshop, not me doing it. I learned in a workshop about when I first heard the language, you teach students, not curriculum. That wasn't in Teachers College. That was in a workshop. I will never forget how that impacted me. I teach children, not the curriculum. And I knew I had the curriculum to cover, but I couldn't be covering a curriculum if my children weren't there with me. And I could tell you from now, I could honestly tell you the work that I put into ensuring that I make sure that I honor my students more than anything else. more than anything else. So thank you for that. What's need disrupting? You had an amazing list just now, an amazing list. Here's what I'm going to add to the list. And you all, every single word, let me see if there's one word that wasn't on your list. I don't think anybody put teacher professional development, but everything else was in the box. So I know I'm not speaking to novice. I know the power in this room, and I want to honor the power in this room. What needs disrupting? Our school's culture and climate deficit, as you said, Rob, the deficit thinking, the negative, the lack of introspection. Teacher pedagogy and practice. Some teachers, how you teach from a place almost like a white savior mentality. You should be so happy that I am your teacher because you know nothing and you come from somewhere where you know nothing. Come, let me tell you everything, instead of recognizing how many of our students come to school with such rich experiences if only we tap into them. When I said to you, I learned from you, you may think I'm joking. Today was the day, this morning, I posted grades for 1041 for your advocacy speech. There are students in that class, I listened to your speech twice. Okay? You spoke to me in your speech. I was inspired by your speech. I was encouraged by your work. So teacher pedagogy and practice is important and it's necessary, and we need to be mindful and think more about it. How do we see that? How do we see that? School culture and climate. Our students live experience valued and celebrated. What are the barriers in our schools that we are infringing on our students? Where are the barriers? Do they see themselves in the curriculum? We talk about this. I love this quote. You see, I don't need to say something when it's already said beautiful. There's this person on Twitter. I follow her on Twitter. Her name is, that's her name, 21st Century Cheryl. And she said, I love this. I love this. She said, I want to go back. She said, a lone teacher can eliminate oppressive practices. But that can't eliminate oppressive practices. But that teacher can disrupt oppressive within her sphere of influence. You have influence, so disrupt. Please and thank you. I give her credit. That's her comment, not mine, and I love it. What are our programs? Are we disrupting in our programs? Are we disrupting in our programs? Are we disrupting in the programs? I was listening to an article. You can see, everybody, you can look at at the name at the bottom there about the Peel District School Board Regional Choices Learning Program and how Black students are underrepresented. Serious. Who gets selected? We're talking about disrupting anti-Black racism from within. You are the teacher, you are the principal, you are the coordinator on staff. Who gets selected? I am asking you, who gets selected? I'm not talking about the school board and the head office. I'm not talking about the director. I'm not talking about the university. I'm talking about you right now, the high school teacher, grade 11 teacher, grade 5, grade 6, grade 2, kindergarten. Who gets selected? Gifted program teachers. Who gets selected? Whose future is impacted? Who is set up for success? Who is robbed and disenfranchised? Who gets tapped? And I love that. In the article, why I love this article, in the article, someone said a teacher tapped a parent to say, hey, get your child in this program. Who gets tapped? Teachers, we are responsible. Teachers, you have been complicit. Teachers, you have been dishonest. Many of us. We have to think about our culturally relevant and responsive pedagogy. I will ring this bell until I break the bell. I'm going to ring this bell until I break this bell. And I'm going to keep ringing the one part of the bell, high expectations. And I'm going to leave you with something. I want everybody to write this down. When you hold high expectation of our students, our Black students, you need to be supporting them to gain that high expectation. You can't hold high expectation of people and did not give them the support. I cannot say I want all my students to pass this course and then I don't show up for class. I want you to pass, but you can't find the readings. I want you to be successful, but the assignment is not graded. I didn't give you no feedback. Nobody knows what they're doing. How am I setting you up for success? How am you setting our students for success? Representation matters. And I could use a ton of pictures, but I will forever use this picture because this picture is important to me, because I've seen two examples I've had as a teacher. When a group of students approached me because they saw this very picture on a slide. Simple thing. I didn't go to any Muslim celebration. I have no Muslim, best friends. I have no investment except in my students. But I use this picture, just one picture I use on a slide, and it impacted a whole group of Muslim girls who walk over to me and said, "Thank you, Dr. Campbell." They saw themselves on the big screen. I put this on a big screen on my presentation, and I said, "Look at what Black excellence looks like." In the Arabia Vogue, on the cover, 3 drop-dead gorgeous Black hijab-wearing women. On the next page was one hijab-wearing woman in the swimsuit edition. She's Muslim, also in a Muslim, type swimsuit. How are we showing our Black boys in representation? Are we only allowing our Black boys to see themselves being arrested, bent over a police car, to see them in your stereotypes and your deficit? And for those teachers out there listening to me, if the only picture you have in your school of a Black boy is playing basketball, I want you to go fix it. I am asking you to go change it. We have to stop that stereotype. Yes, we know we can play basketball. We know we can be a singer. We know that. But I want you to show them the Black doctors, the Black scientists, the Black engineer, the Black chef, the Black designer, the Black newspaper, the Black news reporter, the Black newscaster, the Black politician, the Black opposer, the Black plumber, the Black genius. Show them Black in when it's not sitting in deficit. A lot of our teachers are making the same mistake. They are showing only images of deficit. You have to stop that, because that's what you perpetuate. Representation is also about having a seat at the table. I do this picture specifically. Are we doing a seat at the table, but we have one seat that is lower? Very, 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 very intentional. We give you a seat at the table, but you don't have the same power. That red seat is lower because that seat is lacking. That seat you see there is lacking in power and access and privilege. When you ask somebody to say, "Come get a seat at the table," to do what? Think about that as you think about anti-Black racism and disrupting. Who is on the committee? When do you use my voice? Black instrument? It's only a Black instrument you're going to use my voice? Educational leaders, you must be purposeful in your role and use your power and privilege. I know I'm not reading the quote directly. It's my quote. I could change how I want to change it. Educational leaders, you must be purposeful in your role and use your power and privilege to create and remediate policies and practices rooted in systematic racism and act to make them more equitable and inclusive of all students. I saw this quote by Monique Melton. I want us to understand how we need to normalize Black folks being expert and leaders in subjects beyond racism. I always tell people, I am not your racism Black speaker. I do that work and I do that well because I walk in my Blackness. So I could talk about this. But my PhD is in education, leadership, policy, and diversity. I am an I'm an award-winning elementary school maths teacher. I am an award-winning choreographer. My kids have done dance and win gold medal at national competition. There's more to me than your black talk. I have taught teacher education since 2006 at the university level. I am not new to this. I have been teaching teachers at the university and college level since 2002. I have written courses for universities. Why am I saying that? Because that's a part of what we do when it comes to anti-racism, is that we pigeonhole, and people are doing some inequitable thing in the middle of trying to be equitable. They are going about it in very inequitable ways. I have had people constantly trying to discount black labor. They would say, Dr. Campbell, can I pay you less this, or can I get a discount? And these are the same organization paying $1,000 to their usual white speakers who don't have my qualification. And I say that without fear of contradiction. But we are used to giving more. We wonder why certain people have more, because we are wired to give more to them and give less to others. We are leadership people. We are leadership people. We in this room, we are leadership people. I want you to think about your leadership. Is it authentic? Are you genuine about community building? Sorry. Do you genuinely? Let me tell you something. I have taught leadership courses since 2011. 9 years I'm teaching leadership courses. I've taught leadership courses I teach at Queen's, University of Toronto. I've done leadership courses, University of the West Indies. I've done leadership courses for Guelph Umba. I've done leadership courses in many other spaces and leadership workshops. And people love to say they are transformational leaders, and they love to say they are change agent. I don't know any leader who don't want to call themselves a change agent. What is a change agent? Who is a change agent? Who is a change agent? We're not talking about changing a picture on the wall. We're not talking about rearranging furniture. We're talking, who's a change agent? How are you being transformative? I go back to that word again. How are you doing transformative leadership, advocacy leadership, moral courage needed to do this work? Because I'm going to remind you, disrupting anti-Black racism is not the cutest work. It's not cute work, people. It's not cute work. The disruption of anti-Black racism as education leaders will require us to challenge systematic barriers that will lead to change by speaking out against racial disparities impacting our BIPOC students from being successful. Educational leaders are better positioned to influence equitable changes in schools and advocate for social justice for all students. Educational leaders, we are better positioned to do this work. Educational leaders, we are better positioned to do this work. Educational leaders, you are better positioned to do this work. There's work to be done. And that takes us to the final slide, the final part of the 4 parts tonight. What action will you take to disrupt? What action will you take to disrupt? I want to show you some pictures of how people have acted to disrupt. I want to show you pictures of what disruption can look like in your school. A couple of years ago, we had 1 Black student in the University of Toronto School of Medicine. There's 24, and no, they are not underqualified. Why they brought them in and some foolishness, because I know people love to do that. And I said to a bunch of librarians the other day, Black excellence was always there. You just didn't feature it. Black excellence was always there. You just didn't feature it. These students have always been applying. You just didn't allow them in. Black teachers are applying. You haven't allowed them in. Black people on the staff are seeking promotion. You have not promoted them. Black people are seeking to be on the board and the committees and the subcommittee and the work group. You have not selected them because a lot of us, we have invested in sameness. We like people who are like us. We are reproducing sameness. I am going to ask you all to disrupt by stop reproducing sameness. That's why we have people making such horrible errors. I could spend another 50 minutes tonight and give you a list of racial errors and mishaps and all kind of things that were done in business. You see them with Dove. You see them with Old Navy. You see them being made with Starbucks. You see so many issues because the people who are making the decisions, they are all the same. They all shop at the same place. They attend the same space. They think alike. That's what they do. You have to open up the space. That's another example of what disrupting looks like. When one university said, we are going to hire 5 Black artists one time because they are there. But you and I can remember in high school, what did we learn about? Leonardo da Vinci. Anybody remember? We learned about Leonardo. I learned about Leonardo da Vinci in grade 9. We learned about the Renaissance, Bramante, Brunner Shelley. We learned all about these great artists. I learned about Shakespeare before I learned about many Jamaican writers. We have stopped that foolishness now. Just so you know, we don't do that foolishness anymore. But that's what, so we have to disrupt. We disrupted the curriculum. Well, not me. Well, I'm a part of it too. But teachers disrupted the curriculum. Because I read so many Artie Boys and Nancy Drew. I read The Killer Mockingbird. I read, Macbeth. I read As You Like It, Huckleberry Finn, Tom Sawyer. All those things I read before I started reading Black authors like The Wooing of Pepper Tate, A Cow Called Boy, My Father's Son Johnson, My Far to the Boy Who Was Afraid, The Wine of Astonishment. And all the books I'm reading now in my home and on the shelf that speaks of our Black experience. We have to disrupt the curriculum. I love this one. These two Indigenous First Nation winners of the Canada Amazing Race. This is disrupting the narrative. They get to tell their stories of two spirit. They are two spirit people. One is an academic and one is a medical doctor. I got to sit in an audience and listen to them disrupting the normal narrative. So I'm going to leave you with 5 actions, which we already discussed. So this is really revision, bringing it together, revision style. I'm going to leave you with your actions as you go about in your school, in your classrooms, in the world, the wider spaces to impact and to disrupt. Understand yourself as a leader. Understand yourself as a leader. Understand yourself as a leader. Engage in courageous conversation. Don't shy away from them. Don't shy away from them. Engage in courageous conversations. Don't shy away from them. Foster an inclusive culture and climate. This is a very big one. It's a heavy one for me. It's the one that I could talk about for another 2-hour workshop. How do we foster an inclusive culture and climate? The things we do and say. What are we celebrating in our schools? How do our students see themselves? Who is celebrated? Who is honored? Who is being hired? Who our students get to see? Who is being spoken of in deficit? Whose food is being promoted? Whose food is being shamed? Whose clothes is being seen as the correct clothes, whose hairstyle is being as the right one, the professional one, and whose is being disparaged and pushed aside and all that kind of stuff. We need to foster better inclusive culture and climate, not just in the classroom, in the school, in the staff room, in the school community, and in other organizations. And we have to use equity lens. People love to use talk about equity lens. I don't know which workshop I haven't been, and we don't mention equity lens. Equity lens are not regular lens like these, you know. These are regular lens. Equity lens are serious lens. They are not Ray-Ban, and they are not, you know, fancy designer Prada. But this is a Prada. They're not that. Equity lens are lens that when you look through them, they show up the dirt. They show up the disparity. They show the marginalization. They show the exclusion. They show the curriculum that is lacking. They show the staff that is 98% white and the school population that is 95% racialized. I could tell you that school. I have been to a school like that. 95% white staff, 95% racialized students. So equity lens show you stuff. Yeah, somebody's mic is on, please. Equity lens show you stuff. Equity lens, they show you stuff. They show up. And we already talk about our leadership. We already spend an entire time talking about leadership. I won't get into that anymore. I will remind you in closing for this conversation that your actions to promote inclusion within your organization must be deliberate. And I'm going to leave you with this final slide, one of my favorite slides when I speak about anti-Black racism, especially when I am conscious that I have Black people in the room with me. And I know there's a number of Black students listening to me as we speak right now. Someone has to hold the light. I use a symbol of an old kerosene lamp. I have two of this in my house right here in Canada. I don't use them. They are family because they are from my grandmother in Jamaica, and they are over 85-year-old. So when my grandmother passed away, I really wanted that. So I have them right in my home here with me. I use them as a vase, but they're family. And the light, this is where the light came from. And I can tell you, as much as you see this small lamp right here, if you have ever been in a very dark space and you light a kerosene lamp, you will be surprised. You don't need big light. Many of us, we are working in dark schools, dark classrooms, dark spaces. You have to hold the light. I'm going to charge you with that tonight. I'm going to leave you with that tonight. Many of us, we are working in dark spaces. We have to hold the light. You hold the light when you turn on that light and disrupt the darkness. Turn on the light in you first and disrupt the darkness. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for participating. Thank you so much.